Good evening. Today is Wednesday, February 5th, 2025, and I will go to call to order 1.02. Now we're going to do 1.03, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, 1.04, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. 2.01, approval modification of minutes for the January 22nd, 2025 Governing Board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes from the January 22nd Governing Board meeting.
Second by Ray. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 2.02, approval modification of minutes of the January 22nd, 2025 executive session. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes from the executive session January 22nd.
Second.
Ray, second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes. 3.01, open call to the public. I have one card, is that correct, Heather? Thank you. And we're going to watch a great video.
Persons wishing to address the board must fill out the Request to Address the Board card and submit it to the board's executive coordinator prior to the start of the board meeting. Per Governing Board Policy BEDH, Public Participation at Board Meetings, the Governing Board President shall set a time limit on the length of the comment period. Also per Governing Board Policy BEDH, for items on the agenda, individuals will be called upon when the item is introduced. For topics not on the agenda, citizens will be called upon during this portion of the meeting under Open Call to the Public. In compliance with the open meeting law, the Governing Board will neither discuss nor take action on items raised during this portion of the agenda. When necessary, issues will be taken under advisement and placed on a subsequent agenda. During the open call to the public, issues addressed must be within the jurisdiction of the board.
All right, Nancy Uxa.
I had no idea I was going to be so nervous. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll, as you have seen on the board docs, I'm going to retire. This has been a very bittersweet decision. I'm truly fortunate to have a career that I love. It has brought me both personal and professional fulfillment. To say I love my job would be an understatement. Over the past 40 years, I've been a teacher, a counselor, an assistant principal, a principal. In the past 4 years, I've had the genuine honor and privilege to help support the leaders in our district. At the end of this journey, I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I've helped to make a difference in the lives of some children, for which I'm very proud. I am ready for the next chapter, although I'm not sure my husband is excited to have me around 24/7. As I prepare for my leave, there are a few people I need to thank. First, I want to say thank you to so many of the principals who've worked so hard to drive change and success that we've made over the past 4 years. I'm very proud of the work that we have done together. Mike? Thank you for always answering my text when I asked if you had 2 minutes, which usually turned into 20 minutes. I appreciate your wisdom, advice, and your friendship. Dr. Driscoll, working for you has been a huge highlight in my career. Thank you for believing in me, trusting me, and allowing me to always tell you the truth, and for mentoring me. I have worked for leaders who have focused on adults in the system, not the children. I have a deep and profound respect for you and your dedication to education and to children, even though sometimes some people in this room have pointed out that I'm older than their mothers. I will continue to help move your vision forward as long as I'm not in the south of France drinking wine. Most importantly, I would like to thank my husband, Bob. Your unwavering support has helped to make me the professional I am today. I will forever be grateful to you for your support, for challenging me, encouraging me to always go further, and loving and respecting me enough to tell me when you thought I was wrong. I am eternally grateful to you for your love and your support. Get ready, because I'm going to be with you 24/7. Thank you.
Point 4.01, approval of a consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. McGinney.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll. We have a couple of individuals that you approved on the personnel summary this evening, and so I'd like to share a little bit about both of them. First, I'd like to highlight an individual. Tonight, you approved Mr. Vance Miller to the position of Assistant Principal for Fees College Preparatory Middle School, and I'll share a little bit about his background. Vance earned a bachelor's degree in physical education from Arizona State University, a master's in physical education from Arizona State University, and a master's degree in educational leadership from Northern Arizona University. Vance brings a background in education serving in such roles as physical education teacher at Conley Middle School in our district, and as the Earth Environmental Science teacher and head varsity football coach at Mesquite High School in the Gilbert Public School District. Those who know Vance have shared that his greatest strength is in his preparation and attention to detail and his strong ability to multitask throughout his day. Vance is excited to return to the Tempe Elementary School District and continue to support our students at Fees College Preparatory Middle School. Congratulations, Vance. And he did bring his family with him tonight, so I'll have him coming up here and introduce them.
Good evening. First, thank you for the opportunity. I'm extremely excited to be back in the TD3 family. I'm grateful for everybody that I met during the interview process. Mr. Gagnon giving me the opportunity to work alongside him is going to be absolutely wonderful. So I did bring my family with me today. My wife, Amy, my son, Carson. They're my biggest cheerleaders, my biggest supporters, and I definitely wouldn't be standing in front of you right now at this point in my career without their unwavering support at home. So it's been fantastic. So thank you again.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll, I'd like to highlight another individual that you approved on the personnel summary tonight. Tonight you approved Ms. Kaylee Aguilar to the position of Assistant Principal for Conley Middle School, and I'll share a little bit about her background. Kaylee earned a bachelor's degree in elementary and cross-categorical special education from Arizona State University. She also earned a master's degree in educational leadership from Northern Arizona University. Kaylee has served the students of TD3 for the past 10 years in such roles as middle school math teacher at Conley Middle School, and most recently and currently as the TOSA of Conley Middle School. Those who know her best have shared that she possesses a unique ability to balance administrative responsibilities with the personal touch that ensures every student, staff member, and parent feels valued and supported. Kaylee is thrilled to continue her career here with the Tempe Elementary School District in her new role as Assistant Principal of Conley Middle School. Congratulations, Kaylee.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll, thank you so much for this opportunity. I've been in TD3, like you said, for the past 10 years. This is my home. This is the first place I got a job. Conley is the only place I've ever worked. And so they can't get rid of me, and I don't want to get rid of them. I have here today my family. So I have my little sister, Kyrene. I have my husband, David, which we actually met in middle school. We did not date in middle school, but we met in middle school. And then my suegras, so my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. My parents live in Kansas now, so they're here because I love them so much. And so thank you so much. It's just really an opportunity to grow and lead our district. I want to thank, obviously, all the people that have been here supporting me at Connolly Middle School. I thank Luke very much for giving me the opportunity when I was nervous, and for Mike for calling me after my interview and saying, hey, you did really okay, but you're like, this is what you need to do, and taking that advice. And that's what I hope that I've shown, that I can grow and I can do all of those things. And I just hope to make everybody in our district proud. And so I'm very excited. But thank you.
That's awesome. Welcome to you both. I would like to thank a parent who has donated $3,000 to the Arredondo Elementary School, and to HDR Inc., who donated $9,000 to Rover. We appreciate the donations and the support from the community, so I want to make sure that they're recognized. Now we're going to 5.01, Celebrate Excellence. Dr. Driscoll.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight I have a couple items I want to celebrate. And I will say there was a comment made about my mother and her age. I'm a former HR person. I did not bring that up. I simply said when my mom was born and got corrected that somebody was born before them. The Thieves Construction Club provides an opportunity for students to explore potential careers in construction. During the 6-week program led by McCarthy Construction, students learn trade skills in a hands-on format from industry professionals. Skills covered include framing, plumbing, electrical, drywall and tape and texture, and drywall repairs. Connolly Middle School recently celebrated 2 National Board Certified Teachers on campus. Congratulations to Aspire Academy at Connolly ELA teacher Kelsey Gardner, who was here and left, for earning her MBCT this year. And congratulations to ELD teacher Heather Roberts for maintaining her MBCT. As recent blog posts from the Arizona K-12 Center included Tempe Elementary Schools on the list of the top 10 Arizona public school systems most financially invested in national board certification. On February 3rd through 7th is National School Counseling Week. Tempe Elementary School District is proud of the dynamic, empathetic, and dedicated team of school counselors who provide critical support to students across all our schools. This week, we celebrate their incredible work. Please take a moment to thank these special individuals if you see them at our schools. And that concludes my Celebrate Excellence for this week.
Thank you, Dr. Driscoll. 6.01, presentation by Mr. Thompson, the update on the Arizona Auditor General School District Risk Analyst Report.
All right. President Ewers, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll, thanks for having me tonight. So we're going to address the Auditor General Risk Analysis report that came out recently. A lot of people might have some questions about what it means, what it doesn't mean, so trying to clear up all that information. So it is done every year by the Auditor General. It is not a new thing. It's not done because certain districts have gotten in trouble recently or anything like that. This is an annual thing. The Auditor General looks at 10 different categories and kind of says whether it's high risk or not. There's no middle ground on that. It also classifies districts if it does reach the highest point where the entire district is the highest risk. And there were 2 in the state that had that. I'm sure everyone has heard of what's going on in Isaac. And then the other one is Antelope Union, which is out in Yuma County. So for our purposes, we are not one of the high-risk ones, obviously. We're not one of those 2. But again, it is either you are the highest risk districts or you are not. But we did have 2 of the 10 categories that they did identify as high risk for us. So that was the change in weighted student count, which is essentially enrollment, and then capital monies redirected to operations. And that's essentially district additional assistance. And we'll get into the details of both of those and kind of make sure everyone understands what we're looking at there. So we're going to start with the weighted student count, the change. So we've got the Auditor General's definition there of why that is risky. But if you just kind of look at it from a business perspective, we have fewer customers and less revenue. We get our revenue from the enrollment of students. There's a formula that the state has, and it pays us based on the number of students that we have enrolled in the school. And we have had a decrease in that over the last 2 years. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone who watches the board meetings or in the district. We've talked about that a good bit, and it is identified as a risk, and I think it really is one. This is some detail of it. The little box there was from the report itself. You can see since 2021, we've decreased by 1,300 students, 11%. 1,300 students is easily, 3 elementary schools. It could be our largest middle school and elementary. Like if we looked at Connolly and Curry combined, it's probably around 1,300. And so since 2021, that number of students is gone from our district. That amount of revenue tied to those students has left our district. If you look back even a few more years to 2017, it's 16% that we've reduced. So that has been an issue, and it is a serious risk. And kind of when you look at it like from a financial side, well, can we increase revenue, or do we need to cut expenses? Probably both. But I think we're looking at, can we increase those choices to make us more attractive, to bring students in, to increase that revenue? Do we need to right size the district staffing? Because I can tell you that 11% decrease since 2021, we have not had an 11% decrease in staffing since that point as well. So the ESSER monies have allowed us to continue at a higher level than we probably should have been if we were matching just the enrollment decreases on that. So that's something we'll need to address in the next year. There are some offsetting factors though to make it more of a long-term risk than a short-term immediate risk. So if you see the reserves that we have, the budget limit reserves have gone up a lot. And that's because of the ESSER dollars that we got. So we were able to move some of our regular M&O expenses into ESSER, which essentially artificially increased that carryover. So you can see it went from 2 or 3 million up to 11 million this year. Okay, and it's steadily gone up because we've been able to shift some of those expenses. ESSER's gone, so that's not going to continue to go up. I'm not going to guarantee, but I would bet that this factor would be a high risk factor next year, because that balance of the reserve is going to go down because we're spending more than we're bringing in because we have not made those cuts corresponding to the decrease in enrollment. So the balance of 11 million, it could be 6 million next year. And so that's where, if it's not addressed, that cushion is going to go away very quickly. So it is a high risk factor, but we do have offsetting factors to help us in the short term, but we need to address it in the long term. So the capital monies redirected to operations. So that is the district additional assistance. So when the district, that's part of the formula that we get monies for this additional district assistance, and all districts have a choice of putting all of it into capital, all of it into M&O, a little bit here and there. However the district wants to do it, they can do that. If every year the Auditor General sees the district moving all of the money into M&O, it does kind of raise a red flag, because then they worry, is there enough money in capital if something goes wrong? So this is our budget, the most recent one. And you can see for district additional assistance, we get about 5.2 million, okay? And then we can split that how we want. So this year, putting 4 million into M&O and 1.2 into capital. We can do that because we have a very large balance in the capital fund that we've been rolling over year. So if you look at that line there, the highlighted one, that's our budget balance carry forward. So that's the money at the end of the year that we could have spent in the capital fund that rolls over into the next year. And so since 2018, we've actually grown that amount, even though we have been shifting the DAA, some of the DAA money into M&O. Our balance has still grown. Because if you look at the second to bottom line, I should have highlighted it, but I didn't. You can see our expenses, 6 million, 7 million, it's up to 8 sometimes, depending on if we're buying a bunch of Chromebooks or something like that. But with the capital override of $5 million every year, plus a portion of the DAA that is going to capital, and then we also get interest and some other factors in there that increase it, we have been able to grow that and maintain greater than 10 million every year and actually grow it up to 13 million. So we have a pretty big reserve there, even with shifting more money into M&O. We have a greater need in M&O. And that's because it's a couple different reasons. The bond funding helps a lot. So if you, in the consent agenda, you approved a $120,000 boiler replacement. That's going to be paid for out of bond funds for the critical maintenance. For those districts that don't have bond funds, they would have to use the capital, which would be the DAA. So it kind of allows you to shift that money around a little bit to use the bond fund, which then gives you more money in capital, which means you can shift some of that over into M&O. So we're very fortunate that the voters have approved the overrides and the bonds to let us be in this situation. And then, like I said, we do have the budget carry forward of, we're carrying forward more than we're even spending in a year. Plus, we're bringing more in with the capital override. So because of that, we are, again, good in the short term. Long term, it's something I wouldn't want to do every single year. So, like I just said, I'm more concerned with the long-term risk than in the short-term risk. In my opinion, the decrease of enrollment is the most concerning because that's the money coming in. If we lose that every year, that's going to be a problem because we have ongoing expenses. When we have a 2% raise for employees, and then a 2% increase in funding from the state, but a decrease of 2% in enrollment, well, now we're increasing costs, but we're not bringing more revenue in. Eventually, that's going to catch up with us. So it's something we need to address for the long term, but it's not like we're going to go bankrupt next year like an Isaac or something like that. But we just need to make sure that we take steps proactively before we get to that point. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Mr. Lemon?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I'm glad you did this tonight because I was getting all sorts of questions from people all over. And one of the things, at least in my remembrance, talking about the bond and the bond descriptions, we've been very transparent. We've been telling it in the descriptions of what we're going to use the money for, and we spent it there. And I thought that was good. And also, I think we reduced a couple times the interest rates over the years. And so we've done well. And I believe, maybe Ms. Windsor can remember, but I think we've had small staff increases in funding probably for about 20 years. Maybe just holding its own, but we've more money. And so when we talk about the 11% drop in the number of students, but maintaining this roughly the same level of staffing, that is a problem. And so from that standpoint. So thank you very much for doing that. I think it'll help outline the public and what we need to do, because I've heard a lot of discouraging remarks from so-called political leaders that we're using the wrong money to do the wrong things. And I'm just, don't know how to address that other than we got to talk the story and put it on our webpage and say, no, we think you're wrong. And, but it's, you know, it's changing from that standpoint. One of the other things that I think we've started to do is there a way we can continue to attract out-of-district students or retain our in-district students? And part of that is how we program our buildings. And, you know, it's very difficult to close buildings and not use them for educational purposes. And I think we've done remarkably well this last decade in using the facilities we have. And now we're talking about reprogramming three sites. But, you know, we have a lot of empty seats in a lot of schools, and we're gonna have to do something to reduce that outlay in M&O. And so I think I thought it was a good idea to start looking at the what ifs and the possibilities and going from that standpoint. But with our very small neighborhood schools, there's not much we can do to reduce a lot of that M&O other than bringing new kids in or using them for a different purpose. So thank you for doing this. Dr. Driscoll, thank you for asking Mr. Thompson to do that. And I twisted his arm one night. So, but I appreciate it very much. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon. Mrs. Windsor. Oh. Mr. Terry?
Thank you. Mr. Thompson, honest question. Give me a little room here. I know that it would be, that you don't have a hard figure or anything, but if we were to take all the staff from one school building, say an average size elementary school, they keep their jobs, they move elsewhere, and we just close that building, how much money would that save per year?
It would depend on the school on that, so I don't want to give hard figures on that one, but, you know, some of our smaller ones, probably, you know, $2 to $3 million would be, for just the staffing side of it. So depending on what that makeup of the school is, that could be the cost for it.
So yes, that's my question. If the staff, if we were still employing the staff and they were just elsewhere, because the kids would be elsewhere and we kept the same amount of adults, how much money would it save not having that building anymore, just operating that building?
I can get you better detailed numbers on that one, but if you're shutting that down and moving, I mean, it's a bigger question than that, because if you're moving those kids somewhere, you might need some additional staffing to absorb them, because they're not necessarily going to come in perfect packages that just fit into the holes. But yeah, for our smallest school, it's about $2 or $3 million. For the bigger ones, it would be more.
Okay. So the biggest expense is staff, though.
Oh, by far,
Yeah,
easily 80% of the M&O expenses are staffing.
Yeah, okay. The reason I ask is that I'm always gonna be on team. We need more adults in the room, not fewer. I always think about when I had 8 kids over for a slumber party for my daughter and everyone thought it was crazy. And I was like, your English teacher had 30 just today. What are you talking about? So, yeah, I always, the more adults we can have, the better. And that's why I wonder about just the inherent cost of having a building there. And that's why I asked, so thank you, I appreciate it.
Mr. Thompson, I'd like to thank you for all that you do for us. In the last couple weeks, you've been available to answer any of my questions as we've gone through some of this stuff. And I've also watched a lot of school board meetings, other meetings, and listened to a lot of other ways that people are doing your job, and you're dynamite, and we are so grateful to have you here. You know your stuff, and you are always transparent, and you available to answer our questions at any time, and you're on the money. So I just want to thank you for, and literally on the money, that's like, that should be your new theme. Wow, I have been exposed to this more than I ever have in my life, and kudos to you, and thank you for choosing Tempe Elementary to do your work in. I'm grateful.
Thank you.
7.01, discussion, consideration, and possible approval, the Facilities Department Manager, plumbing and custodial position, and the corresponding job description. Mr. McGinney, would you mind giving us some update on this?
Sure, absolutely. Madam President, members of the board, we have Teresa DeLong here. As these positions are a result of, from our audit back in December from EXMI. There were several findings and recommendations, and one of them is to create some efficiencies within our positions. And so in looking at restructuring, we have some proposed job descriptions that will actually help us run the programs more efficiently. It's a reduction of 2 FTE in that process, which is a salary savings of around $145,000. So we're able to do some really creative things and still accomplish what we need for our facilities department. So, but again, Teresa's here and can probably go into more detail on the specifics of the positions.
Do we have any questions? Ms. Windsor?
Just want to double check. So is that true for 701 and 702? That they both come from the same evaluation, correct? And is it a reduction of FTEs, 2 FTEs for both of these positions?
That's correct. So the reorganization and the changes in these positions, one is a reduction of one separate FTE, and another one is a kind of combining some positions as well.
I love hearing that. If we can meet everybody's needs and save money, that's a win-win. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
And it's really great too, and I will just say, just so that the board knows, Teresa's doing a phenomenal job looking at creating those efficiencies. And so it's something that, again, these are related to the audit findings, but it's a lengthy working process that we continue to do. So hopefully we'll come back to you with more good news.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion to approve 701, the Facilities Department Manager, Plumbing and Custodial position, and the corresponding job description.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Let's go to 7.02, discussion, consideration, and possible approval, the Facilities Department Manager Systems, Data, and Customer Experience position, and the corresponding job description. I know you kind of we put them together. So I'll have a motion, and then if we have any discussion or questions. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the Facilities Department Manager, Systems, Data, and Customer Experience position and the corresponding job description.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
We have a question.
Oh, do we have discussion? Sorry. Ms. Windsor?
Just wanted to have a little bit more clarification on what this position will be doing. I remember last meeting, or maybe a couple of meetings ago, we talked about a online ticket system. So that's part of it, I'm assuming. What else would be?
Okay, can you hear me? Perfect. Yes, so they would be in charge of they would be the administrator for our online ticketing system. They would manage our data reporting for our permits and things like that. And then they would also be the customer liaison for our department. So they would be the point person for principals and department leaders. If they needed something, then they would connect back with the trades to help facilitate the stuff. So it was a consolidation of that customer experience comments from the audit we did and trying to put some efficiencies in place. It is a downscope of the supervisor role that used to be in the department. So we are not going to replace the supervisor role. We downscoped it to a manager for this position to better connect what the district needs as a whole and the position.
Mr. Lemon?
Thank you, Madam President. Thanks for bringing this item forward. I guess kind of a simple question. Where would this individual be housed? At Brogan or here?
They would be housed at Brogan.
All right. And will they be going out on site when there's a project and some difficulties?
Yeah, they would be customer facing. So they would be out on site or walk the site if there was an issue or reach out to like I was at Arredondo and Holdeman yesterday. with the Intercom Tech because we needed to get some things resolved. So they would be kind of that liaison.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. So we have a motion, we have a second on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. 8.01, board information. Mrs. Windsor.
Thank you, President Ewers. Busy week last week. Ms. Ewers and I were both able to attend the East Valley Consortium? School Board Consortium. I'm like, what was it that I was at? Last Monday, where we got to communicate with all the board members that show up from the East Valley and learn a little bit more about Gilbert Public Schools. It's always a good opportunity to network and share ideas. And then the community forums, we, 3 of us, I think, attended. And I want to specifically say how much I appreciate this administration being very transparent about the situation that we're in. I know some community members probably feel like this was sprung on them, because I know not everybody attends and watches our meetings. But this has been a very diligent, lengthy process. I think we're at 2.5 years that we started this conversation. And I mean, I can draw out my own timeline about what I recall from it, but I know you guys have done that for yourselves, and everybody sitting here went to the forum. So I appreciate the very direct statements about us needing to adapt and to change and to provide options. And my new phrase is, we don't want to be a woolly mammoth. We want to adapt and evolve and still survive. And we can watch the news and see that that's not happening everywhere. So I'm grateful for the creative thinking that is also a response to the community's requests. And I know not every community member, but the majority of community members that responded to the surveys that we did years ago and created our strategic plan around. And then the last thing I want to say is about Dr. Uxa. Dr. Uxa and I actually met doing our jobs, not even as a school board member. I went over there for recruiting of 8th graders, I believe. And she was a principal at Shamley. And I just was so blown away by her professionalism, her attention to details. I kept on wondering, why is this lady not in a high school or a superintendent? Like, she blows my socks off in just one meeting. I was amazed, and incredibly gracious and kind. It's such an odd combination in this world to have the intelligence and the skills and also be gracious and kind. And I have always, from the moment I met you, just adored you and held you in high regard. And I'm going to miss you terribly. But I actually do have your phone number, so I may be bugging you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lemon?
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Uxa, I'll be sad to see you go. I met you when you first came to Shamley. At that time, it was Laird. And as people know, that I'm pretty much involved, and the previous superintendent was a rock star, and I asked the administration to get another rock star, and there she is. And I appreciate everything you've done in both at the sites and then with the team, and from that standpoint, and I really appreciate your work. And your husband will probably find you other things to do if you don't find them. So I appreciate that very much. I did have several other comments. I was able to attend the public meeting at Carminati and at Arredondo, and I missed the one at Fees, and I think all of these 3 different ideas and boundary changes and things of that nature, I think we need to do them. And I was very impressed months ago when I saw the data and how the data was analyzed for every site in our district of what we could do and should do. And it was really done. It's difficult to share all of that, but it was done with a blind sense, and just the schools, the names weren't there. It was just the data from sites 1 through 20, whatever it was. And that's the way you analyze stuff, and I was impressed with it from that standpoint, and all the different things that went into it. So I thought that was good. There were a lot of comments at these meetings about, well, we're changing things. What about, I want to do this and want to do that? And I've been thinking about, how do we explain it other than we're going to make your world change? And I got to thinking about that when I went shopping the other day, and I went down the normal aisle where I get my normal can of whatever it is, and it wasn't there. They had moved it, but it was still there in the store. And when I checked out, the checker said, well, did you find everything? And I said, yes, eventually, and thank you. And so I look at it this way. We're responding to the need to program differently to provide a product. And if people choose not to take the product, that's okay. There's a lot of things I don't eat. Well, you can't believe I eat. Looking down here, I eat a lot of things, but I think that's one of the things that we're looking at. And other districts are rifting teachers. We have never rifted a teacher. We've used natural retirement and people going somewhere else. We've never decreased their money unless it was special grant money or something, they were getting an additional stipend. So I think we've done pretty good, and we're gonna have to make some tough decisions. In some of those neighborhoods, the people will see a different way that their local school is operated, whether it's bringing in parents from all over the East Valley or buses during the daytime to swap them, kids out to their other home schools, and or with the little ones at a preschool site. So anyway, so I was pleased we did that. And then Friday night, of course, was the Thai dinner, and we saw a lot of our friends. And it was great food. I hope they raised a lot of money. They raised some from that standpoint, and so I appreciate what the Thai does. And finally, we had the invitation for Saturday morning to go out to Mesa to listen to the Conley Jazz Band. And the auditorium was packed, and it just wasn't parents. It was lots of other music teachers and adults listening to this. And I was just really glad that I got there. It was free, the best sort of date night that you can have, or date morning or whatever. But they're really good. And I don't know if you saw in the newspaper that the district to the east of us got a lot of parental guidance on not to cut the music program. And I don't think we've ever cut ours. Sometimes we haven't expanded them as much as we'd like to, but we make a difference in people's lives, and so I appreciate it. Dr. Driscoll, thank you for continuing to do that, and thanks, Mr. Thompson, for finding the money so we could do that. Thank you, Madam President.
I'd like to second what Mr. Lemon said about the Connolly Jazz Band. Bravo. And why I bring that up is because I want to encourage everyone to look at our calendar online. We have a lot of concerts and plays and things coming up at our schools. And the caliber of talent that we have, I promise you, is going to blow you away. So if you get a chance, and like Mr. Lemon said, it's a non-high cost date night, please check it out. Go support our kids. Mr. Lemon had said on Saturday as he's walking away, and I heard him under his breath that he didn't know I was listening, but he said, taxpayer money well spent. And I said, that's right. It just was phenomenal to see what we were able to give back to the community. And Mr. Pugh, man, those kids are good. And thank you for providing such greatness at your schools and something for our kids to get the well-rounded whole child experience. I attended the Bolt's Law Conference on Friday and learned about what bills and things are coming up. And it was nice to have a refresher on what we can and can't do. And It wasn't invigorating, but it was it. So I can't say woo. The Thai Foundation, bravo to everyone in this room. One, because everyone was there to attend and support it. Two, it's the coolest cause in the whole world. The Thai Foundation helps our children in so many ways, and especially those in need. And the community members that were there and those who won the awards are just angels in our community. So bravo to you guys for putting it on, and thank you for providing such an amazing experience for our kids through what you do, and thank you to the Thai Foundation. The 5K Love Your Heart Walk is coming up. Walk, run, Eric, on next Saturday, so get your running shoes on, come join us. The temperature is going to it looks like it's going to be 71 degrees. Couldn't be a better day. So wear your jacket in the morning. When you first start out, it's going to be 49, but if you want to shed those clothes and throw them at me, I'll make sure they're at the finish line for you. I want to say happy Valentine's, not all your clothes, just your jacket. Keep your clothes on. Oh, that's going to hit the news. School board member tells people to get naked at 5K run. No, I did not say that. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone. And I bring this up because it's not all freckles and sunshine for everyone. And I am responsible for making sure that you all know that you have mental health care that is included in your package. And Valentine's Day and Christmas are the highest rates of depression in our country. And it's just one little day, but it's so impactful for so many people. So please, if you haven't looked at your emails from Sandra, go through them, because on every one of them, she has something there, and she will be able to tell you quickly who you can call and how you can get help if you don't know. And it's not necessarily asking for help. Sometimes it's just asking to be heard. So please consider that. And I didn't come over and see you before the meeting because I was upset with you. So, Mrs. Aksa, you are incredible and you love your job, and I'm so grateful that you chose to choose us to do your job in. As you were talking, I was tearing up. School board members who have been here with you for a while were tearing up. Your coworkers were tearing up, and that's a big compliment. You're a force of nature, and you've contributed to bettering every single one of our children's lives, even if they know it or not. And I'm not mad at you anymore. I'm just grateful for you, and I want to tell you congratulations, and I can't wait to see what else you have in store for you and for your husband. And again, thank you for just being part of our community. All right, 9.01, announcements and upcoming events. There will be an agenda committee meeting Wednesday, February 12th at 11 o'clock a.m. The Tempe Elementary Love Your Heart 5K, sponsored by TEEA, will be held February 15th, 2025 at 8 a.m. at the Kiwanis Park, 5500 South Mill Avenue, Tempe, Arizona. President's Day is Monday, February 17th, 2025. All schools and district offices will be closed. The next regular scheduled governing board meeting will take place Wednesday, February 19th, 2025 at 7 p.m. with a study session at 5:30 p.m. in the Karen Arredondo Governing Boardroom of the Sanchez Administration Building at 3205 South Rural Road, Tempe, Arizona. 10.01, meeting adjournment. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Good night, everybody.